morning to you. How are you doing? Well, we're going to get into a program right now. Imagine you're on vacation just chilling and then somebody says, hey, come on local TV and talk with us. And we're very happy that our first guest this morning decided to do that because she's been doing some work. She's a Barbadian living in London and she's doing some work that's very interesting and ties in very nicely with Black History Month, which we are observing right now. So let's say good morning to K.N Chimbiri.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
And congratulate you on your first publication, your first book, which we have with us here this morning and which we're going to talk about. It is called Step Back in Time to Ancient Kush. Now, why did you want to write about the happenings in a far-off land?
Well, I'm very interested in African history and Black history. I have lots of godchildren, and I realized that the full scope of African history isn't really known. Most people think of Black history as being about slavery, and I live in London, as you said. Whenever I go into the bookstores, there's hardly any information about the contributions of people of African descent to world history, so I decided to do something about it.
So once you decided to write a book about Black history, why did you choose this one, Kush, Ancient Egypt, that sort of thing? Why that one?
Well, it's going to the issue of the scope of the history. As I said, it's about more than slavery, and a lot of people don't realize that people of African descent have a classical history, just as European history has Greece and Rome, ancient Greece and ancient Rome.
In fact, sometimes they were at conflict, they were combined.
Yes, and our classical history, African classical history, is ancient Kush and ancient Egypt. So I decided to go back to the beginning, the first civilizations, and start there.
Okay, very good. Well, I know this is your first, but do you plan to continue since you have your own publishing house, Golden Destiny?
Most definitely. There's so many stories to be told, both with the classical eras and also later on going up to the medieval eras. And basically I'm going to concentrate mainly on the areas of history outside of slavery, because history is very much about what people have done and contributed, not just about what's been done to them.
Can you tell us a bit about the process of putting together a book like this? You're rolling your eyes because I'm thinking, I mean, most people just write about, you know, cute, brightly colored characters for children, but you went deep with the research and then transposing it into something that kids will understand.
Yes.
Walk me through your process.
Well, it was a very challenging process. I don't actually have a background in publishing. I'm obviously interested in the history and I knew about that, but the publishing was a completely new venture. I had to learn about it. I had to find out how to get ISBN numbers, how to print the books, how to get illustrators. So it was such a long process. It actually took a year to put this little book together.
Wow.
Yeah, and I could understand that because it's not just a book where you sit down and read right through. There are activities in the book. In fact, on the cover, there's an actual activity on the cover.
Yes.
So how, I mean, was it really, really hard? Because you would have had your ideas, but then you have to tell it to someone else now. That sort of process, was it really hard?
It just came to me because I'm very much about children having the right education and having the right knowledge. And even today, with the internet and all these distractions, people or children still really like activity books. So I felt that would be a good format to put it in, and it's supposed to help with concentration and problem solving. So I thought, well, if I do it in an activity book format, it will make it fun, it will be educational, and it will help the children with literacy as well as the history.
Absolutely. My first thought was you must be a teacher because you seem so passionate about it, and you know, this must be the thing she does, I thought. But you are a secretary.
A secretary. I work as a secretary. That's my day job for the moment.
So how's balancing it? I mean, how do you marry the two?
It was really difficult, I must admit. It was really challenging because obviously after doing my day job, I had to do this on the side, and it was something completely new. But I was really motivated by the passion and the fact that I knew children would enjoy it. And so far the response has been really good. The feedback, it's very encouraging.
I'm also wondering about the response. You launched it just about a year ago in England. So I'm wondering about the response to black children there and the environment they're growing in. And I'm curious also to find out what you will find here when you get feedback from how it's received here. But what have you seen there?
The thing about it is that the response in the UK has been excellent from the children who've used it, both black and white, but predominantly black children. And it's one of the reasons why I did the book, because when you are on an international stage or you're in a multicultural country, it's very important to know that you have a history that's as good as everyone else's, and you don't want black children to feel that their only history is slavery, that they enter the world of history as slaves and that's all their ancestors have ever been. So the response has been so good.
That's wonderful.
What about the research? Was getting the information easy for you? Was it readily available and just not put together?
Yes, that's absolutely right. The research was actually the easier side for me than the publishing, because obviously that's my passion, the history. The information is there. All of these artifacts that are in the book are in museums in Europe. The information is all there. It's just a question of knowing where to look and to actually put it together.
Did you consult with any teaching professionals as to how to put together what must be some sort of a loose lesson plan?
Not at first. At first I decided to just go ahead and do it since it hadn't been done. So I did it first, but once I'd put everything together with the help of a few Egyptologists and archaeological experts, I then tested it and I had to make very few changes. There was only one girl who said, I don't like that picture, but apart from that, it was fine.
After the Moses.
It looks pretty authentic.
Yeah, it does. It does. And the fact that you started this, it's for a kernel of passion really, is really where it started, and to set up your own publishing company as well. Trailblazing all the way. When you get back to London, what's next? I know you want to do more.
Yes.
But will it be another activity book? Will it be a history book?
Well, there's so much to do, and that's one of the challenges. What do I do next? This is going to be a series, so there will be others in this series, but I'd also like to bring out more of the stories about Ancient Kush. While I was here, I went in to see one of the schools that I went to school. I went to 3 schools in Barbados, and I went to see the school, and I asked the children a little bit about how many black personalities they know from history before 1900, and they couldn't all come up with a big list, and most people really couldn't. So I would like to develop a little bit more about some of the personalities from the book.
Excellent.
I'm curious as to the reason why you decided to set up the publishing company. Was it because you tried to get established publishers, or you just thought that was the way to go?
I felt that was the way to go, because with publishing companies, they are very much about big business, and they want to obviously do books that are going to sell well. Particularly now there's a recession on, so they're a little bit hesitant about doing something that might be seen as being a bit niche or might be a bit risky in terms of how much it will sell. They tend to stick to the tried and tested. So because this was very different, I felt a small publishing house, i.e. my own, would be better served to do it. And I also know the topic, and many others don't.
And then I guess it comes down to the next question of distribution. Have you been able to get it as far and wide around England as you hoped for, or is that still a work in progress?
That's a work in progress, and that's the challenge, and particularly as I do have a full-time job. However, I'm very proud to say that the book is in the British Museum. They took it right away. It's also in the Petrie Museum of Egyptian Archaeology. So the experts in this field, they absolutely loved it.
Good stuff.
With buy-in from them, we're sure we'll be finding this book on more ubiquitous bookshops, maybe in Borders, maybe in...
Oh, let's hope.
Here's hoping. I suppose my curiosity goes back to the kids and how we can maybe try to get hold of it more within the region, because as you said, I don't know about Colin and Cassandra, but I spent a lot of time learning European history.
Yes.
And our history, West Indian history that I did at CXC level was, again, very tied to slavery.
Yes.
So maybe you can tell us about your plans to maintain this relationship with home, because Barbados is home for you.
It is.
And perhaps use this location as a fillip for the response from children as well as distribution.
Well, I have been looking at the syllabus here, the primary school syllabus, and there is scope here to teach African contributions to world civilization, which is exactly what this is about. So I would like to come back and do various activities, perhaps with the Barbados Museum, similar to what I do in London, because in London I go to the museums, they have me in, I do little talks about the civilization, and then we do hands-on activity with the children, where they can do some of the pottery that's featured in the book, they can make things that are featured in the book. So I'd love to do that here.
Okay, so what's the age specifically that this book is targeting?
Well, on the back it does say ages 7 to 70. Okay. I actually have adults who buy it and they tell me they're buying it for themselves, which is really nice. But it is actually for children aged 7 to 12 and their parents. So the parents do need to sit with the children, read the book, and then do the activity.
You think the recent events in Egypt sort of helped this book a little bit, because now people can sort of at least relate a little bit to where this is from?
Definitely. And also the events in the Sudan. Sudan has just decided to cede, and when they decided that, they had to debate whether they were going to call the country South Sudan or Kush, because of course this is where this where this happened.
Good for you. So it's available here now as well?
It is. It's in the bookstores in Barbados. It's in Cloisters bookstore and in Days, and of course in the Barbados Museum, which has an excellent African gallery.
Absolutely.
All right, we'd like to thank you very much for dropping by. We know you have a long trip beginning sometime later on today, and we got you up early this morning. We apologize for that, but I'm sure our viewers are very happy to hear from you and to see your book, Step Back in Time, The Ancient Kush. Thank you very much, K.N Chimbiri, and we hope the book goes far and wide.
Thank you.
You're looking at Morning Barbados, and we'll be back after this short break.